I think it's a really, really good case study that we can go through.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. That we can go through. Hey, welcome to Spill the Beans. Today I'm sitting down with Abby Robinson. She's local here in the Charleston market, has a W-2 job, and started investing in real estate about 24 months ago. Picked up 17 deals her first year, just bought a mobile home park. So she's got a ton of good stuff going on. I'm excited to sit down with her on her journey as she scales and hear about what her goals are over the next 24 months. We're gonna get her to 100 doors. So come sit down with us, grab a cup of coffee, let's go spill the beans. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Spill the Beans. I have my friend Abby Robinson here. How are you doing? And so Abby and I recently got connected. Obviously, you know Kelly Garrett very well, and we're going through some of her coaching stuff. And then she introduced us, and you joined Legacy Family, and working on the big mobile home deal in North Charleston. I want to dive into that. But before I dive into that and talk about your experience in that project, and I want to actually break it down exactly of how you found it, how you got the money initially, going through the process of refinancing, raising capital, and what's worked, what hasn't worked. But before we dive into all that, tell me about like entrepreneurially or financially, right? Like you're big into, like you're an entrepreneur, but you're also an intrapreneur, right? You got a W-2 right now.
I do.
Working for a family of entrepreneurs. Like, tell me a little bit about how did you get to where you are today?
Yep. So moved to Charleston a few years ago from Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated from college with my accounting degree, went to grad school, got my CPA license, all that fun jazz. Worked.
Go to school, get good grades, get a good job.
Yeah, exactly. So somehow landed in accounting. It was like too late to turn back. By the time I was like, what am I doing?
Well, that's the highest paying job. When you look at the list in college
Yeah.
of all the highest paying jobs, accountant is number one.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I was going to accounting, it was like $57,000 a year, and the marketing people like me were at like $33,000 a year starting job. I was like, damn it, I should have gone for accounting. You know?
It's been fun. I mean, numbers kind of are, they come to me naturally. So it was just kind of the path that, was the best for me, I guess. It was the one, I guess, subject in school that I struggled with, which I don't know why that made me focus more on it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so lived in Atlanta all my life. An opportunity presented itself. My brother runs his own HVAC company out of Charleston, and they got to a point where they were growing so much that they needed to kind of have somebody in-house instead of outsourcing all of their accounting, and so that's kind of where I came in. And it's been great. We should have moved here years ago. I mean, Charleston is beautiful.
That's what everybody says. Like, I would. What's your one regret about moving to Charleston? I just didn't do it soon enough.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. So, worked for my brother for the past 2 years here as a controller in his company. Before we moved here, my wife and I were very interested in real estate investing. And it all started from, rich dad, poor dad. And then just educating ourselves for a few years, saving up money. And, so we decided when we moved here, let's pull the trigger.
Yep.
And we, started going to REI Central or one of the, investment groups around town.
Side note, one of the best like REI groups that I've ever seen across the country, REI Central. If you're ever in Charleston, the first Thursday of the month, REI Central is an awesome group. My buddy Dusty Keefe and Russ Scheider and Kelly Garrett, they all run it, and they have, 100 players that come out to it every single month.
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
really
all
amazing.
people, everybody's doing deals.
And I think that if it weren't for just that group of people and being introduced to the right people, we would have never taken off the way that we did. And, in a matter of months, we went from just, going to these monthly meetings to having a coach and then pulling the trigger on our first deal. I want to say that was within 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
Our first deal was 2 single-family homes right next to each other. We ended up flipping one, and then...
Were they on the same parcel or 2 separate parcels?
2 separate parcels.
Okay.
Ended up flipping one, and then, at the time the market was so hot last summer and then renovating another and kept it for long term. So that's kind of our goal. Is we're long term investors. We'd like to hang on to these properties. If it makes more sense though to flip them, then that's what we'll do.
What in your mind makes more sense? When do you decide to flip versus hold?
I guess if you're running into, so when I say flip for us, it was more like we didn't really put that much into it. Just we kind of made some repairs and that was it. But with the market the way that it was last summer, I mean, we just decided let's just put this thing on. This other project is getting a little bigger, a little bigger than we had anticipated. So let's focus more of our efforts here. It's in better shape. This one, really, we could fix it up and put it back on the market without putting much into it and make a pretty nice return. So we were just kind of playing with the semantics of, trying things on for size and let's see what happens. And so it worked well for us on that first deal. And we still have that long-term property that we've had rented out.
Is there a reason why you kept that one instead of selling it and making a big pop?
I mean, again, our goals were to hang on to the units. If you're flipping them, you have to get to the next one to flip, the next one to flip, and the next one to flip for income. And this is kind of a long-term play for us. This is our retirement plan. So hang on to as many as we can is the goal. So it just kind of worked out the way that it did with that one, and we're happy that it did.
I think looking at deals is do I hold on to it or do I flip it? First of all, knowing that you have multiple exit strategies, I think is an important thing. But I take a look at, I'm in the business on a full-time basis, right? And so deals are a dime a dozen for a guy like me. Early on, I put a lot of weight on every single individual deal, So the way that I look at it now is if I sold this thing, first of all, is it to me, is it something I see myself holding for the next 20 years? If I don't see myself holding it for the next 20 years, why hold it for another 5, right?
Right.
Then just let's flip it and let's go find something that I can hold for 20 years. At the same time, I wanted to grow my balance sheet, right? I had to get my portfolio number of doors under ownership to a certain level. And by transactionally selling deals, you don't do that, right? So now, if you just transact deals, you don't have the personal financial statement in order to qualify to go and take down a bigger apartment complex or commercial building or a small boutique hotel or a retail complex or whatever. So you need to build it up, and it doesn't matter what kind of properties you have. Just get them into your balance sheet, right? So that way you can show your portfolio to a banker, and then you can qualify for the bigger stuff. And then afterwards, then you can start refining your portfolio. Right. If I don't see myself holding it for 20 years, shed the fat, right? Get rid of all the headache properties or problematic properties or properties that need a bunch of work in the next 3, 5, 10 years.
Right.
And dump those and then keep rolling into better stuff. And that's actually where I've been over the past 24 months is refining my portfolio, taking a step back, trimming the fat in order to then make bigger leaps forward. And I think that's a constant growing thing that we do.
Yeah.
But I love that you're trying to buy and hold as much as you possibly can right now to get the portfolio up.
Yeah, absolutely. And we went kind of crazy our first year. We ended up getting 17 doors
really?
in 12
I love
months.
it.
Yeah. So, now we have 4
Does your wife work full time?
She does.
Okay.
She works.
What's her personality, behavioral type?
She is more of an introvert than I am.
Okay, really?
Yeah,
okay.
But she's
not saying that I'm just usually opposites attract kind of a thing, right?
Yeah,
so if you're very analytical and data driven and numbers driven, I was actually expecting her to be more like the salesperson,
No, that's more my role, which is weird because I am very detailed with numbers as well. But she's an attorney. She works for a rehab wallet actually.
Oh yeah.
So
that's right. I think I met her.
Yeah. So she'll comb through something. I'm a little bit I am analytical with the numbers, but I'm a little bit more high level, and so we kind of do complement each other in that aspect.
Yep. You're very similar to me. I can do spreadsheets.
Yeah.
But I only like doing spreadsheets that I create, right?
Right.
And the stuff that I can understand. Reading other people's spreadsheets drive me nuts because I don't know where the numbers come. Right. But I love organizing my thoughts on a spreadsheet and the numbers myself on a spreadsheet. But I hate trying to interpret other people's stuff.
Right. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. So anyway, we ended up kind of going, deal after deal after deal after deal for the first year there, and we now have 4 single family homes, 3 of which are long-term rentals, and then we just started up an Airbnb. So that is exciting. We're going to see how that performs. And then we ended up getting, we had expressed to our coach, we want to jump into multifamily. Let's if this is the amount of effort that is put toward a single family home, what does the effort look like put towards multifamily, and what does that mean in terms of a return? So we were able to kind of come up with the fact that maybe just as much effort but more return, or maybe same return but smaller effort.
Yep.
So
well, obviously, a building, a 100-unit apartment building, is going to be more work than a single-family house.
right.
But a 100-unit apartment building or 100 single-family houses, it's a fraction of the amount of work,
Right.
So, yeah, you're doing more than one transaction versus one transaction, but for the number of units, number of doors, size of portfolio, it is infinitesimal compared to how much work goes into transacting
Right.
100 single-family houses.
Right. So when we had expressed that to our coach, we mentioned, let's try and get our hands on something, and we were interested in the mobile home park space, and so our coach actually came across a deal, and we pulled the trigger on it, and so we purchased a mobile home park in February of this year, and I self-manage it.
So it came from somebody else. They wholesaled it to you?
No, it didn't. It was not a wholesaler. It was, the previous owner had it for like 20 years. She was self-managing. She was, she had teenagers at this point in her life that she was trying to manage, and she was ready to get into something that was more passive. And so we purchased it from her through word of mouth, off market.
Got it.
Yep.
So you didn't have to pay a referral fee or a wholesale fee or anything to somebody else?
No.
All right, so you buy it off market. How'd you fund it?
Hard money. So
What do
hard
the terms
money,
look like?
The terms were 12% interest, only, payments monthly. And
Points, fees, anything like that?
there were some points and fees associated with that, yes. We came in, had the scope of work associated with what we were going to do with the rehab. They funded the purchase price for the asset as well as the rehab associated with it. So
you guys were able, after you transacted 17 deals, right, last year, you guys found this opportunity, and because you had performed over and over and over again and executed on those other past deals, they were willing to fund 100% of the purchase and renovation costs? So you weren't out of pocket any money?
we were not out of pocket any money.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we had to cover some closing costs. I take that back. Some of the closing costs came out of our rehab budget.
Got it.
So
But,
we did.
I mean, pretty awesome that you don't have to bring a bunch of your own cash to a deal, or
Yeah.
even 10 or 20% down. Like, you guys were out of pocket a few $1,000s in order to take this thing down.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah. It's
Also
amazing.
scary.
So it's like, how many deals can you do like that, though? You know?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
absolutely. But I think
you can buy the whole world if you don't need any of your own money, right?
Yeah,
You always have other people's money.
I know.
Just
Why
keep buying
isn't everybody
things.
doing it?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's scary though. Biggest deal that we've done, right? But I think healthy scary, right? Like you're very aware of what's going on. You better make sure you have your numbers right.
Yeah.
Yada yada yada. So, it's been a lot of fun. We went in and renovated the units that really needed it, and
And give me the specs on it again. How many mobile homes?
9 mobile homes.
9 mobile homes.
7 of them owned by the park.
Park owned, so it's 9 total lots. 7 are lot rent and mobile home rent, and you own the mobile homes, and then 2 of them are just lot rent.
Correct.
Okay.
So we came in, we increased all of the tenants were like way under market in terms of rent. They were all month to month. So we came in, we stabilized all of the leases. We got everybody on 12-month leases. We raised.
How'd those conversations go? Right? People have been there. This woman's managed it for 20 years. Obviously hasn't been raising rent the way that to keep up with the market. You come in as some new rich landlord you start jacking up rents, right? So like how does that conversation go with the tenants, and how do they respond to that?
Well, first of all, I'm just the property manager.
Always, always. Hey, some rich landlord over there is telling me what to do.
Some new guy. This is my second job.
Yeah.
So, I think people just want to be spoken to like people. I mean, I don't think it doesn't have to be difficult if you don't make it difficult. And as long as you're able to have those conversations and just say, hey, this is the new way that things are going to go. Are you comfortable with that? Would you mind signing a 12-month lease? It's not, again, as long as you treat people with respect, I think that it can be easygoing. And so it was easygoing, as I knew it to be. I had nothing to, really compare it to, because I had never property managed before. So this was kind of, when the topic of property management came up for this property specifically, when I was speaking to the previous owner. I was like, who did you, oh no, I property managed it myself. Why wouldn't you do that? And I was like, why wouldn't I do that? I guess, I mean, I'm gonna try this, and it might take up a lot of my time, but I'm gonna just try it out, because I feel like I'll learn a lot, which I have.
The thing. It's do it long enough where you learn, but not long enough where it becomes a job.
Right.
Right. Do it. Like I remember reading a book. I can't remember who it was. I think it was T. Harv Eckert or something like that, who wrote Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And so he was talking about, hey, I wanted to go and start like an ice cream shop or something. So I went and took a job at an ice cream shop for a week, right? In order to learn all the ins and outs, what the equipment was, how things operated. And then after a week, he's like, I don't want to do this business anymore.
Yeah.
Right? But like he went and got educated and got paid to be educated on how to do that business. And he's like, no, not enough leverage, scale, whatever it was for me in order to pursue that. And so, but he went and did the job, right? So I wouldn't suggest anybody goes and does. I mean, property management's a tough job, and it's thankless, and it's you're kind of a punching bag across the board. But in order, like, it makes you that much better of an asset manager long term, and to be able to then have empathy when talking to other property managers as your portfolio continues to grow, because you'll always be constrained by 24 hours of time.
Right.
And it allows you now to then, talk knowledgeably. I mean, I can tell you firsthand, like, I talk to bankers all day, every single day, who are asset managers who have never owned a friggin' asset in their life, right? Yeah. But they work for some bank, and they're like, well, what about this? Why didn't you do that? I was like, have you ever sat there and walked through a unit and talked to a tenant who's, kid is sleeping on the floor instead of a bed? Like, you've never even done that. You've never gotten ripped off by a contractor and had to chase this guy down for stealing windows of yours, or like walked into a house and had roaches fall on your head. Like, dude, when somebody's done that,
right,
you give them a lot more respect, and now you can say, hey, how can I work with you and problem solve with you, instead of looking like a dumbass when you're talking to somebody who is in that on a day-to-day basis, Right.
Totally agree. And I think that there's pieces too that, you think you're okay to sign up for, and then you realize, all right, this is my time is worth way more. Like we tried to knock out like doing the yard maintenance one weekend at the mobile home park, and that was the last time, first and last time that we'll ever do that. And we thought to ourselves, no, this is not worth our time.
You hire a crew for $65, and they hammer it out in 20 minutes.
Right. So just got everybody, tried to have those conversations. Fortunately, didn't have, a lot of pushback. I mean, everybody was happy to stay there. And, that was the beginning of starting these, relationships with these tenants.
So it's February of this year. You bought it. Took how long to renovate it?
Maybe 2-3 months tops.
Including getting new leases signed?
Yes.
So you're renovating the units, and the tenants see you making improvements and investing money into their home and their community. So it's an easier conversation to have after you make those improvements, you make that investment, and you make that commitment to them to say, hey, will you make a commitment back to me and sign an annual lease?
Right.
At market rate rent. You've gotten a smoking deal on this thing. Across the street, they're rent for twice what you're at. I just want to bump you by $200 or something like that. So it's a little bit of a science and an art in how you have those conversations with the tenants. It takes a few months. Then next hurdle is you're trying to refinance, right? So you go to the banks, and what do the banks say about this?
Well, at first the banks were, when we first started having these conversations with the banks, because we started these conversations while we were, purchasing the asset, and a lot of them were like, "Oh yes, absolutely, call me, please, please, please."
Yep.
But by the time we were finishing, which was in about June, July of this year, the rates, the market started to turn a bit. The interest rates started going up. Banks started to kind of back away and say, "Wait a minute, I don't know that we're willing to invest in maybe that level of risk in terms of that type of asset." So, I think I had conversations with, a few dozen bankers, and a lot of the times they were walking us all the way down the aisle to the LOI, and we'd go sign it, or we'd be about to sign it, and it's, oh, the bank's not interested.
A little rug pull, huh?
Yeah. So it was humbling.
Banks are a pain in the ass. Like, every time I try to go and get...
That's another way to say it.
They're horrible. They're freaking horrible. Like,
yeah.
Especially on smaller things. Like, once you get into multi-million-dollar loan amounts,
yeah.
You hire a mortgage broker, and they handle all the communication
yeah.
for you, right? You give them your couple of years tax returns, you give them some bank statements, you give them the personal financial statement, and then they take that, they package it all up and make it all pretty and stuff, and then they go and deal with the banks and the lenders. But like this asset you're into for 650, 600?
650 is what we're trying to raise, basically. Yep.
So you're into it for 650. Whenever you're either in residential real estate or you're doing deals usually under $1.5 million, they're looking 90% at you at the borrower, or about at least 50-50 of project and borrower, and they're scrutinizing it so much.
Yep.
And then they want to know where do you get your money from? How is it sourced? Oh my gosh, you didn't put any of your own money in, and you found a lender to give you 100% financing, and da 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 da. Like, it's just like you got to explain everything. They don't think like businesses. And then, but once you get into like the bigger stuff, once you get into like $1 million, $2 million, $3 million properties and bigger, now it's just 95% asset based.
Yeah.
It's all about what is the asset, how renovated is it, how stable is it, is good management in place, great. Is somebody who could fog a mirror and sign on the loan? Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
Now obviously there's some financial responsibilities, and you need some sort of a certain size net worth and a certain size liquidity, but it's just assumed that you're an investor and you know what the hell you're doing. Right. So it's really much more asset based after that. So, but under $1 million, it's a pain in the ass dealing with the banks. So instead of doing that, after talking to a couple dozen banks, you decided, why don't we just syndicate this thing?
Yeah, we were coming up on our hard money loan being due, and we had already extended it, and that's expensive. And so the next option was, what's the next option? I mean, when your back's against the wall, you don't have time to be scared to make the next step. And so we decided to syndicate it.
Love it.
And that was actually something that I enjoyed more so than I thought I would. It takes action, and I like being the first in line, the first to arrive, the first to. I'm very much like to get things done quickly. I do not procrastinate. So, having that type of character, I think, really lended to being pretty good at that.
Yeah.
And I was kind of shocked, because not only was I shocked that I enjoyed it, but shocked that the people that were willing to invest with us, or couldn't do it at the time, but was very interested. And just having those conversations with people that you had no idea would be interested, family, friends. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to, or let me jump on the next one. It's like, we just built a list. It was insane. It was amazing that you could just build a list like that.
Isn't it remarkable?
Yeah. So
so I want to make 2 points. First is you being the type that just gets shit done. Like we had a hard time connecting because I was traveling and some other stuff, and I wanted to help you kind of structure it in a way that, hey, this would make sense. This is how I would structure it if I'm in part of this deal, and if I was bringing this to my investors. And you're the only person who's ever been like, here's what I put together, based on one of your other offerings, Tim. I backed into it this way, and you got it 90% of the way where it should have been, and it's a testament to your character, a testament to that you have your shit together, and I think that's really, really cool. And that, to your next point, has been conveyed to everybody in your life, right? That knows you, that has done business with you, who hasn't done business with you, but people who watch you, people who are your friends, people who know that you show up on time, you do what you say you're going to do. And that alone carries so much weight when you go to raise money that your character leads, It's not about the deal, it's not about the return, it's about who am I investing with. That's the most important thing to me whenever I go and write a check. Right. And so that's a big piece of solving the puzzle of raising private money. And so you've done an amazing job with that.
Thank you.
And it's not fun the first time, right? It's very stressful. It's very as on top of it as you are. It's always scary and stressful, and but it's also very encouraging.
Yeah.
Of people who didn't even realize that you did these kinds of deals, that you raised money this kind of way, that you paid these kinds of returns, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, Abby, I'm not ready for this one. I didn't even realize you did this, but keep me posted on the next one. I have a windfall of money coming in, or I'm going to cash out my 401k, or I'm going to retire and have a self-directed IRA, or I'm going to sell my business, or launch a product, or sell another property, and I'm going to have some cash at the end of the year, or in Q1 of 2023, or and all of a sudden you got a list, right? Susie has $200,000 ready to go after the new year, right? And I kept everybody's first name, last name, email address, phone number, and notes on them in an Excel spreadsheet, and that's what I still manage my investor database as. Yep. And I send them an email, and I have them hop on a webinar, and I send them the financing package and my investment summary, and then I explain it on a webinar, and then I ask people to raise their hand. And that's how we raise all of our money, because we've been doing exactly what you've done for 7, 8, 9 years now. And it just compounds, right? Yeah. And now we have a list of thousands of investors with over $100 million that we've raised in that timeline. So it's exciting, because I know if you just keep your head down and keep doing what you're doing, this stuff will compound in a massive way, and I know exactly what your future looks like, right? Yeah. It's you are raising on your first deal like I did back in 2015, mm-hmm. And so 7 years from now, I can tell you exactly where you're going to be if you just keep on doing the activities.
It's definitely encouraging. Although it's stressful because it's always top of mind, it's amazing mm-hmm. how quickly you can learn something when mm-hmm. you're under that type of pressure, mm-hmm. So even when you're not out of the woods yet, it's like, well, okay, at least I've done this much, so.
And as soon as you're out of the woods, I can tell you, you'd be like, all right, let's go do it again.
Yeah.
Right? You forget how bad it was when you were in it, and you're like...
It's like your first couple of deals where you're just like, I have no idea what's coming next. And then you get through it and you're like, oh, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
We could do two of those at the same time. And
it's horrible while you're going through it,
right.
But then as soon as you get to the other side of it, you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Let me go do it again. You're like, damn, why didn't I do that again?
Yeah.
And then you get better and better and sharper, and you solve more problems each time. Yeah. And it gets easier and easier eventually, And so that's the key. So that's exciting. So you're finishing that up. And the reality is, you could always go back to the banks and syndicate half of it if you want. Mm-hmm. I know you syndicated like either the whole thing or you syndicated part of it. But you can always go back to the bank and say, hey, give me a 50% LTV loan because I've already raised 50% of the money and I don't need 100% financing anymore. And so that at least, again, opens up more doors for you and mm-hmm. more options. Once you know how to syndicate, once you know how to raise capital and put investors into a deal, it makes the job, it gives you another tool in the tool belt.
Yeah, and I think that's why I enjoy it, is there's not all this red tape. You can be so creative with it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what is a little more freeing mm-hmm. going that route. So,
for sure. So what does the rest of this year look like? And what is the next, let's call it, 24 months. What's the goal?
So next 24 months. Really excited to get into some large multifamily deals.
What's large? Define that.
I think starting off, now keep in mind, my largest right now is 9. Yeah. So I think maybe doubling that and going for maybe 20 plus, and then maybe getting to 40 plus, 80 plus. Would love to have 100 doors over the next 3 years, I would say. That's kind of
we'll do that by
goal.
The end of next year.
Hoping so. That would be great.
We'll do that by the end of next year.
Love beating goals.
There's no reason, and I think that's an important point to make, is you're very realistic in your goals, right? I was never very realistic. I just kind of like shot for the moon, and I'd always fall short, which was very discouraging. But it was always still like, holy shit, Tim, you accomplished that much in
Yeah.
12 months or 24 months or 36 months. But I always overshot my annual goals, right? I never ever hit my annual goals across anything. Like I'm really bad at hitting my annual goals because I always overestimate what I can accomplish in 12 months. But when I look at what I do in 3 to 5 years, it's like smoked those goals, smoked them. And so I think we all underestimate what we can do in 3 to 5 years
Yeah.
if we just keep our head down and keep on moving forward and doing the right activities and focusing on the things that really matter in the business. And so it's I'll tell you, for what you guys have already done in your first year and first 18 months or so that you've been in the business, there's no reason now that you couldn't collect 100 doors next year.
All right, let's do it.
I'm excited for you. What does that look like from working with your brother?
Yeah, so that would look a lot different than what things look like now. It's tough. It's tough to working with family. There's a lot of really good things that come with working with family. My brother and I are very close. My youngest brother runs an HVAC company, and then the middle child that I work for runs his own HVAC company, and so big sister over here just trying to bide my time waiting, right?
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun working with family, and the fact that we're able to do it without killing each other is a bonus. And so I love my job, but there are my own goals, aspirations, dreams that I will be pursuing sometime in the future. And so I think it's going to be a capacity question.
Well, here's the thing. Right now you're making him money,
Yep.
or you're saving him money, right? Like you're paying attention to that stuff. But the reality is, you go buy 100 doors, and you give him all that business, he's going to make more money from you pursuing your dreams, your goals, your aspirations,
Right.
where it lifts both of you up instead of just one of you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And now he's going to be able to hire 2 CPAs because you need at least 2 CPAs to do what you can do, right? In order to fill one seat there.
Yes.
But he'll be able to do that and more because
Yes.
of the money that he'll make from servicing your buildings, your properties, and now he's making more money. Now he passively invests in you. You're able to go and buy more stuff. It now creates this compounding cycle of you're helping him multiply his
Yep.
savings, right, and feeding his business, and at the same time feeding yours. And now it's like this cool, cohesive working with your siblings in just a different manner.
Absolutely. And I think that there's also I'm very well taken care of at my job, and there's that aspect to it. I mean, I have a W-2 job. When is it smart to say, all right, I'm ready to work by myself and be 1099? So there's a lot of benefits that come with my wife and I being W-2 employees, and so I think that it will show itself in terms of the time frame for us to pull the trigger on that. I don't have an answer in terms of when, but I think it's going to get to a point where it's like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to burn the candle at both ends and make myself crazy, with both businesses.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree. I think, when I first got started, like my wife was a nurse, and I'm trying to get this business up and running, right? And my salary, when I partnered with a couple guys who exclusively, they put up, I don't know, a few $100,000, and I took a salary of $3,000 a month. That's what my income was in 2013. So I'm making $3,000 a month, and I'm working on the business, and thankfully my wife was making, I don't even know, $80,000 a month as a nurse. And she was able to kind of pay the bills and keep us afloat financially.
Yeah.
I was able to knock out, cover some things, and but it allowed me to go and take greater risks, and go and try to start this business, try to really push to make it happen. But she's the one that kept our head above water, 2013, 14, 15, 16, and really she ended up coming home and being with the kids full time in 2017.
Okay.
So But guess what? For 3-4 years, she was the breadwinner, you know, and she's the one making majority of the money, and majority of my money went either back into the business or I wasn't making it and I was losing it, you know?
Right.
And so it's nice to have kind of a safety net of having at least one salary somewhere.
Right.
But it's also pretty cool for one of you guys to be able to go and
Yeah.
work on the fortune, work on building a long-term plan at the same time. So having that team aspect is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I think when we first started this, it was like, oh, 10 years, we'll quit our jobs, but I mean, everybody told us when we first started, you're gonna wipe that goal out of the water.
Yeah, it'll be 36 months.
Yeah, and since we've gotten started, it's kind of like, okay, this is gonna be a lot sooner than I think any of us had anticipated. So I think I think I'll probably have a better idea soon.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, I'm excited for you. I'm proud of you. I know this the mobile home and like how things have played out hasn't been easy and has been a lot of learning curves. But I'm seeing the growth, right? Like I'm seeing it because I'm not inside the frame, so I can see the whole picture, and I know exactly how much you've grown already and how much you're going to continue to grow, and how this is going to set you up for taking down those 100 doors over the next 15 months.
Yeah.
So
Very
I'm
excited.
excited for you. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
Excited for the continued growth.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate it.
Hey, hopefully you guys got a ton of value out of that. I love having conversations with good people, and Abby had a ton of great insights. She's real easy to talk to, and I think it's really important to see her journey, and depending on where you are and what you're looking to accomplish, there were a bunch of great takeaways in things that she said and things that you can implement regardless of where you are on your journey on building your business and developing your real estate. So make sure you connect with Abby on social media. And if you got some good takeaways, I'd love to hear it in the comment section, or any questions you might have, put it in the comment section. Maybe I'll make a video and shoot it out to you over the next couple of weeks here. And if you would do me a favor, just like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps us, get in front of more and more folks and kind of beat the algorithm on social media. So appreciate you. Until next time, we'll see you on Spill the Beans.